Hey guys, it's me, Mr. Aguilar. I'm sorry I can't make it to today. It's November 7th, 2016. I apologize for the written on the paper. But you guys are going to have a handout today. Um, I'm sick, so I won't be able to make it with you guys. Uh, Today's assignment is not that difficult to understand. That's why I'm giving you guys the option to do it this today. You have a front and back worksheet to do. Just follow along when you're done with it towards the end of class. When you're ready, the teacher, substitute, and Ms. Reyes will be able to provide you the homework. It's 12 problems. It's not too difficult. By now, you guys should have a Chromebook. You should be at YouTube, domain and range, AGUILAR72. Okay, we want to start being able to look at properties of functions. The first thing I want you guys to do is be able to graph the two following inequalities on your guys' graph paper. If you guys can do that for me, that would be tremendous. We're going to go ahead and solve these in a couple some minutes. What I want you guys to do is copy those down onto your do now sheets and solve them and place them in your graphs. Okay. What you want to be able to see here is the inequalities. These are both standard slope-intercept form. We want to identify that the slope or intercept is at -2. So I'm going down at -2. Then my slope is telling me to go up 1 or up 2/3, which is right there. My inequality is a dashed line, so we're going to dash it. Okay, so it's a dashed line from that inequality. And what we're going to go ahead and do is plug in our value, or our test point. 0 is less than -2. You guys should realize that that is false. So we're going to shade below. The next one that we get on the side over here is our properties. -2x plus 2 with the greater than sign. Graphing our inequality, we're going to go +2. Our slope is down 2/1. We have a solid line going through my point. In this case, our test point is going to give us is 0 greater than or equal to 2. It should be saying no for that. Those are the two that we're looking at for our functions and our do knows. Go ahead and put those away, take out the notes. Here we go. We're introducing functions. We're going to go ahead and move on from graphing. The introduction to functions is very simple. A function is a rule that establishes a relationship between two quantities called an input and output. The input and output are basically your domain and range. It's also referred to as your x and y. One thing that you want to be able to see here is that the input for your domain is essentially your x's. The x's for the input. Your range will be your output for y's. Looking at the different ways we can see a function is interpreting it by the 4 different types. The first type that we get here is done by a table. This is simply a table. You guys have seen plenty of these before. The other one that we're getting right below it is coordinate points. Okay. Then we have a mapping diagram. And the last one you see is a graph. We're going to get to what a function is and how to apply those, but basically you want to be able to say that you have an input. When you plug it into the equation, you have an output. So we're establishing a relationship between the two. Okay. So those are the 4 different ways you can see it. Okay. So here we go. The next part is identifying what the domain provides you and what the range provides you. Essentially, the domain is a collection of all inputs. Another way to say this is all x values. It's another way to say that. The other part that you're going to read as well is the range is a collection of all outputs. So this is all y values. Okay, and that's all it's asking you for. This is all we're doing today. I want you to be able to look at the different types of graphs and provide me the domain and ranges for all of them. If we're looking at our first one here, okay, if we're looking at our first one, this is a table. The first one that we want to be able to see here is our domain. The domain for these values is very straightforward. So write our domain, 2 points, and just list them. 0, 1, 3, and 4. That's our domain. It's all the inputs that we have for our graph. Our range, all you're going to do is list the range outputs, which is the independent values for y. In this case, 3, 1, 1, 2. And it represents all of our outputs. If you have a table, just write me a list. That's all you got to do. If we're looking at another type, which is the ones down below, we're going to be able to identify that we have a coordinate system. In this case, the good thing about it is it's listed as x and y points, x and y, x and y, x and y. Okay, we know that they're listed as points provided to us, so all we got to do is just separate them. Once we separate them, we're going to have both our domain and range. So looking at our domain, I want you to identify all the x values in each parts of these. So again, our domain is 0, 1, 3, and 4. That's all we're looking at. That's all we're looking at. The next part that we're going to do is our range, which represents our outputs. I'm going to tone this down a little bit. Our ranges are y outputs. So 3, 1, and 2. And that's all we're doing. I'm asking you to list the domain and range for each of these values. That's our inputs and outputs. For an input and output table, or this is a mapping chart, we've done the same way. In this case, it even tells you the inputs would be your domain. So you can also abbreviate your domain as D. Okay, 0, 1, 3, and 4. Your range are your outputs. You can represent domain or range as R, 3, 1, and 2. Okay, that's all. That's about as hard as we're going to do today. The graphing domain and range can be done several ways. If you'd like to identify the range of the inputs, my version and the way that I'm going to tell you guys to do it is just go ahead and list your points as coordinate points. I'm going to kind of do that around here so you guys can see them. But all we're doing is I'm asking you to list the domain and range for these values. The value that we're getting for this one is going to be 0, 3. This one right here is going to be 1, 1. The next one we're going to have is 3, 1. And then we're going to have 4, 2. And all you want to be able to do is list your points. In this case, our domain again is represented by our D. My inputs are 0, 1, 3, and 4. Our range for our values becomes 3, 1, 1, 2. The listing does not need to be in order. You can have them in descending order, meaning listed in order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But nothing really in particular that you guys need to have. The values are just done the same way. Once you list them, you can write them as coordinate points, which is also the same way we did our coordinate points on the other side. So nothing's too hard on that. Okay. We're going to give these a shot. I just want you guys to try these ones out. You guys have a list of them right down below. I'm going to give the first two a shot. Pause the video when you need to. And continue as you guys are writing. Here we go. The first types of problems that we're going to see here are tables. I'm trying to drop these down. We'll do yellow in one of them. And let's do baby blue. So I'm kind of bring this down. Our domain values for our first table in the first one, okay, are represented by my x values. In this case, my x values are in order. So I'm just going to write -2, 1, 3, 5. My range values for my outputs will be represented by my y's. Range will be -3, 3, -3, and 3. One case that we're going to kind of talk about in the future is if it repeats itself, you don't need to write it twice. In this case, -3 is written twice, 3 is written twice. You can just have written -3, 3, and been done. But I'm not going to be too picky about that. The next one that we're going to see here, our domain for our second problem is going to be -1, 2, 3, 4, with our range being our y outputs, our range being -5, 4, 7, and 10. I want you guys to pause it right now and try the last two problems out. Okay, give you guys some time. The difficulty about this we'll get into when we're actually describing what it means to be a function, yes or no. You guys have maybe heard about this. One-to-one and onto. What we're going to be looking at is one-to-one. And when we're looking at graphs, it'll be a vertical line test. When you put your pencil on the paper and hope that it crosses at a good part. In that case, we're going to be good. So here we go. Our x values here. It represents my domain. Boom, boom. -2, 1, 3, and 5 will be represented by my domain. My range will be my outputs. So I'm going to kind of abbreviate this one. The output that keeps on repeating itself is just 3. So our range for our value is just 3. You do not have to keep on repeating 3, 3, 3 every time. It goes back to, we've already have it written down. We don't need to keep on repeating it. For the last one, our yellow will represent our domain. Domain right here is 3 and 4. Again, you don't need to repeat your values. And then we have our range, which is represented by our y outputs, will be 4, 5, -4, -5. Even though it might look different that you're getting 2 4s and 2 5s, they are opposite values. There's not ones that repeat. So we do want to write those ones down. Okay? So save those. Let's continue on the different types of graphs. Okay? We have our graphs here. I'm going to show you the other ways of looking at these values. I'm going to do the traditional way of how I would do it. And then I would also give you the other values of how they're represented in. The last way, you can choose which way you want to. What we want to be able to see here is the easiest way to do this is just write out your coordinate points. In this case, my first one is going to be 0, 3. My other point will be 1, 1. And then we get 3, negative 1. I'll write this one up above. I'm going to get 3, 1, 4, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 1. Once you have your values there, all you have to simply do is just write them down. It's basically 0, 1, 3, 4, 3, and 5 are your domain values that are represented by the x-coordinate point. So our domain for this is 0, 1, 3, 4, and 5. Again, I do not need to repeat 3 because it's already there. Our range values are exactly the opposite term. In this case, we're getting 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, and 1. Again, it repeats a lot. So we're getting 3 is for one of them. We're getting 1 and 2. That's it. Even though 1 repeats 4 times, we just have to write it once. The other version of doing this, and I'm hoping you guys can start being able to see these, it's going to help you out in the future, is our domain way that you want to do this is just see how they correspond to your x-axis, right? They represent x values, so they correspond to the x-axis. So every single time that we can drop these down to the origin will be represented by my x domain. And that first to the far left, we're getting negative 2, which is here, negative 1, which is here, 1, which is there, 2, and then 4 and 5. So you don't need to keep on writing a bunch of letters again. We can do the same thing for y, just drop them down, drop your letters down to the y-axis. Going from below, we can just connect them all there. Here, these two are going to connect to the same one. Okay, so wherever they kind of meet up with the y-axis, we can do them that way. So our range going from the lower part will be negative 2, negative 1, 1, 2, and 3. Whichever way you prefer, you can definitely do it. Some students like one way, other students like the other. Whatever way you kind of prefer. I would like for you guys to pause it and try this problem out on your own. Again, just work as much as you guys can on this. Ms. Reyes definitely knows how to do these, so please ask her for help if you need to. I'm just going to go ahead and list them for you. So our domain are represented by our numbers. For our variables here, in this case, negative 1, 2, so we're definitely getting 0, negative 1, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. That's one of our values here. Our range, which is represented by our y's, goes from the bottom portion, which is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and 1. So keep that in perspective as you guys do this. I hope you guys got the same thing. Whichever way it works. Most students like the first way because they prefer to write down the coordinate points and pull the coordinate points from there. But it's up to you to how you guys want to do it. Okay? So that's with graphing tables. We're just talking about domain and range today. This is why this is kind of very easy. Some of you guys are going to breeze right through this. So let's continue. We have input and output charts. Again, the way that we determine the way that the input-output chart works is, if we're looking at our first one here, we're taking one value, which is the open arrow, and we're going into the other, which is the input to the output. There is no relationship with this one, but we're going to kind of see that later, how that works. The domain for our first one here is just pulling the numbers that are directly into our values for our first one, going from one place to the other. In this case, our domain is going to be represented by 2, negative 8, 1, and 3. Our range output is by our y value. So our range is going to be 4, 0, 5, 1. Put commas right next to them. Okay. Done with that one. This was kind of simple because you can just easily see them. The first parts right here will be our domain because the arrow is going from them to -8, 3 is our domain. Our range is our output. So our range is going to be 4, 0, 1. And I'm pretty sure you guys by this time are just really starting to see it and getting the hang of it. So I'm hoping that's what's happening. Again, domain is represented by my first inputs here. So 2, -8, and 1. Our range will be 4, 0, 5, and 3. Inputs and outputs. Go ahead and try the last one. I'm pretty sure you can tell me directly out. We'll finish this one up together. Domain will be 4, 0, 5, 1. 4, 0, 5, 1 represents domain. See inputs. Let's try to highlight that for you guys. And our last one's our range will be 2, -8, 1, and 3. So that's all you really have to do for those. Let's continue. I think I have one more. I want to see the coordinate points, but I can't remember. So let's see. Ordered pairs. Again, ordered pairs. You guys have seen me before. We talked about these. So we're going to go and look at them right here. You guys can definitely copy down those ordered pairs. And the first one is our first example up here. And all I really want to do is the first value will represent my input. This is also your X and your X and Y coordinate point. And we said this before that the domain is essentially the X value, is what you're plugging in for X. Our range is our Y value. It's represented by the second number. So 5, 0, and -3. Hopefully you guys find this easy. I feel not good right now, but we're going to try to finish this up for you guys. Okay. Next one that you're seeing here, again, you do not need to repeat numbers if they do occur twice. So -1, we're good here. 0, we're good there. 2, boom. 3, 3, and 4, 4. Those are domain values represented by your X value. Range, we said this before. 0, -3, -3. Those repeat twice. We don't need to. And we see 0 again. We don't need to repeat 0 again because it's already in our range. And 5, which is not on our range. So I have to put that one down. You can definitely do that. It's okay. The last one down here, I want you guys to pause it and write down the domain and range. If you repeat numbers, it's okay. I'm not going to do that. Sorry guys, I'm making you guys yawn too. I know I'm making you guys yawn. I apologize. It's late and I need to get this done for you guys. Let's go ahead and pull the domain and range. Okay. No cool beans today. I'm feeling sick. Okay. The domain, I'm going to go ahead and just write them out for you. Pause it if you need to so you can write them out and try these problems. I do want to say that I will be reviewing with you guys tomorrow. So don't feel like if you didn't understand what's happening, that I'm just going to leave you in the dark. I just want to try to give you guys heads up onto today's lesson instead of me not being there. Here we go. This one had a lot. Okay. So those are the remaining range. If you can just look at everybody knows, a lot of these that you see on the test will not be asking you to do work. So keep that in mind as you guys do these. Okay. Those are what we're looking at for those types. Okay. Here we go. Let me see if there's the last one. Okay. Practice these last ones. Practice these last ones. I'll let you guys do your thing on those. Okay. See what you get. Compare and contrast with your other classmates. You're getting all the different types. Label them and listen as well. Tell me what the first one, input and output, is a mapping. We have the second one being a graph, third one being a table, and the last one being coordinate pairs. So try those out. If you have any questions, let me know what you guys have. Please comment in the sections if you guys need to. I'll be checking on these tomorrow. Please be good for the teacher. When you're done with this, keep it out with you. Use it for your homework. Again, try to list them in order if you can. So in order from ascending to descending, in order. You guys have a fantastic day. I hope I'll see you Tuesday, which most likely I will. I don't want to miss this whole week. I miss you guys. Okay? You guys have a fantastic day. Be safe. You guys take care. Bye.